Let me ask you a real question. Have you ever been at work in a real moment knowing what the right thing to do was, but you knew that if you did the right thing, it might cost you your job, not cost you your reputation, or not cost you a little bit of money, but I'm talking about doing the right thing would cost you your job. Have you ever been in that moment? Well, I can tell you, I've been in that moment in a high stakes role in Washington, D.C., and I was called into a meeting or a conference call, should I say, and I didn't know if I was going to be asked for information or asked to turn in my resignation. And I had a choice. Am I going to do the right thing, or am I going to do what's necessary to keep my job? Because sometimes those things are not mutually exclusive. And so I'm asking this question to you because if you've been a leader at any high level, this is something that you're going to face or have faced. And I want to know, did you do the right thing or did you do the safe thing? And if you're wondering how to navigate these type of circumstances, then you are in the right place for the right conversation today. Because too many leaders are in high level positions where they get to a decision point. Are they going to focus on doing the thing that helps them to keep their job? Are they going to do the right thing? So if you've ever felt that pressure, if you've ever been in that moment where you didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring, depending on the decision that you made, you are in the right place, and we're getting ready to have a conversation about it. And so in order for me to give you the conversation about it, I got to give you the backstory on what I was dealing with in that high stakes role in Washington, D.C. And literally, I'm going to rewind the clock to the time when I was working at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in a senior executive service role in the Obama administration. It was a time that a lot of us have forgotten, but it's a time that I will never forget. See, it's when we were in the process of preparing to launch the first open enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act, giving people an opportunity to sign up for health insurance coverage. But we didn't have it launched at this point. It was still closed. We were still in the education phase of the process. Now, my role as the director of external affairs, my job was to engage with external organizations about the Affordable Care Act. And I engaged with everybody from hospitals to health systems to small businesses to entrepreneurs to music industry folks, and yes, Fortune 500 companies and big global brands that everybody would know. I engaged with them, meaning that if they asked me to come to a meeting, I went to the meeting to tell them an update about the Affordable Care Act. If they asked me to come to their conference and speak at their conference, I would speak at their conference. And that's the situation that I found myself in on this particular day. See, I was invited to speak to a conference of more than 500 people who had come in from around the country, and they wanted an update from the administration about where we were on the Affordable Care Act. So I did what I normally would do. I showed up, I stepped on stage, and I delivered a flawless presentation about the Affordable Care Act. People applauded, and then I said, let's take questions. So I began to stand on stage and take questions from people in the audience. And one of the questions that I got asked me about, is the Affordable Care Act going to help people with pre-existing conditions? And how are we getting the word out to people who have pre-existing conditions? Now, that's a basic question that I gave a basic answer to. But something happened in the second half of my answer that put me in a position that had me thinking that I was going to lose my job. And this is what happened. I got asked the question, and in my response, I mentioned to them groups of people who we know have pre-existing conditions and struggle to get access to coverage. I said 3 simple letters that made everybody stand up and pay attention. Those 3 letters were NFL. That's right. I told a group of people that some of the people who have pre-existing conditions who were struggling to get access to insurance coverage are former NFL players. So they get injured on the field from playing a tough game. We know about CTE. We know about the physical injuries that people have. And we also know that many people that had those injuries were uninsurable before the Affordable Care Act. Companies wouldn't give them coverage. So I mentioned from the stage that we have been talking to the NFL about how to get former players covered under the Affordable Care Act. And I know that don't sound like a big deal to you, but if I rewind the clock to 2013, that absolutely was a big deal. And why was it a big deal? Because those days, there were a whole group of people who were hell-bent on stopping the Affordable Care Act from not only coming law, but stopping it from working once it became law. And so there were people who were on the other side of the issue. They wanted to stop it. And so why does it matter that I said the NFL? Well, the moment I said the NFL, it was 30 minutes from the time that I walked off a stage, finishing taking that Q&A, that my phone started to blow up. And when I say my phone, I had a BlackBerry. My BlackBerry started to blow up because there began news stories and wire stories that had the following sensationalized headline. Obama administration is working with the NFL to promote Obamacare. Or it had the reverse. The NFL is colluding with the Obama administration to promote the Affordable Care Act. Now, I didn't say anything along those lines. I just said we had a conversation about former players who struggle to get coverage and they need coverage, and we had a conversation with the NFL. I didn't tell them that we had multiple conversations with the NFL's leadership about this issue. And it wasn't just this issue we talked about. We talked about the struggle of mental health with NFL players. There was a murder-suicide that happened the previous year that made the NFL really invested on the mental health of its active players. So nothing bad. All of these things sound good. We want to help people to live and thrive no matter what their industries or what injuries or what their career path was. And that's literally what I said that turned into a news firestorm of people thinking that we were colluding, using that negative term, with the NFL to promote Obamacare. Well, within those 30 minutes, there were phone calls flooding the White House press office, the HHS press office, asking questions. How are you colluding with the NFL? How many times have you met with them? What's your plans? Like all of these kinds of questions. And to give you more context, during this time, it was a heightened political environment. So much so that I knew that some people were being asked to fall on swords for doing the right thing. And I was thinking that this was going to be one of those moments. Because not only did those calls come to the press office, I started to get calls from White House leadership who wanted to talk to me about what I said at this conference. Now, to give you some more context, this was a regular and routine thing for me to have the ability to speak in front of groups about the Affordable Care Act back in 2012, 2013. I did it all the time. I mean, like hundreds of times. So I didn't say anything different this day than I did at any previous day. But for whatever reason, people heard those 3 letters, NFL, and assumed that there was a bigger story behind it. So they started to write on it. And then I got the phone call from the White House communications team. I got the phone call from the White House Domestic Policy Council wanting to know, what did I say that caused such a hailstorm of issues in Washington, D.C.? And if you don't believe me, you can go back and Google all of the stories, because here's where it got worse. Members of the United States Senate saw the news stories about the NFL working with us on the Affordable Care Act, and they started sending threatening letters to the National Football League and the owners of NFL teams, saying to them, if you're working with the Obama administration to promote Obamacare, if you're colluding with the Obama administration to promote Obamacare, we're going to bring you on Capitol Hill and talk to you about antitrust violations. Maybe we take away the NFL's antitrust exemption. They were saying all kinds of crazy stuff, threatening to bring owners to Washington, D.C. because they believed that they were helping us with the Affordable Care Act. It was a big firestorm. I'll never forget it. So when I got that call to jump on the conference call, here is what I understood. That sometimes doing the right thing has consequences. And I was sitting there contemplating, what are they going to say to me on this phone call? Are they going to ask me to resign because I said the truth from the stage and it created a hailstorm? Because I know in politics and in government, there are times when people are asked to fall on the sword. They are. That's how you make stories go away. The person who did the bad thing resigned, so now we can move on. But I knew I didn't do anything wrong. And so that is a circumstance that I was in. Now, why am I sharing this story with you? It's because you as a leader, if you've been in a position of executive leadership at any time, I know you have fear of consequences. Sometimes you have so much fear of consequences, it drives your decision. That you may not say certain things because you're worried about how it might impact you. That you might not do certain things because you're worried that it might cost you your job. So your fear of consequences makes you not do some things and do things differently because you need to keep your job. You want to keep your job so bad that I'm not ruffling those feathers. I'm not saying anything in this meeting. I know we're making a mistake and going down the wrong path, but I'm not saying anything. You have let fear drive the consequences of your decisions. The second thing that you're allowing to happen is that you're putting the preservation of yourself over the mission of the organization. That yes, you are making a decision. My job and my money is more important than the mission that I'm supposed to be executing. Now, I hope you're not doing that, but I know there are plenty of leaders who are letting self-preservation drive their decisions. You shouldn't be doing that, but so many people are. The third thing that you're doing is the uncertainty about the future of your work might have you playing it safe. That doesn't have to be as drastic as what I talked about, giving a speech and then you say something that creates a firestorm, but it might be the fact that you know that layoffs are coming. And so you decide to be quiet and hide and duck in plain sight, hoping that the layoffs will pass you by. Don't work like that. These fear consequences driving your decision, choosing to preserve yourself over the mission, and more importantly, deciding to play it safe because you're uncertain about your future is the wrong thing to do. That's not what the best leaders do. So let me tell you what the best leaders do. And before I tell you that, let me tell you what happened to me in my circumstance. That I got that phone call to jump on a call with the leadership at HHS and the White House to talk about what I said. Now, I was having anxiety before I got on that call because I didn't know if I was going to be asked to resign. I needed my job. I needed the money. I needed everything. And I didn't want to let the president down. And when I thought about those last few words, don't let the president down, that's when everything shifted in me. See, because I knew the mission was more important than the messenger. And so whether it's me or somebody else, we needed to educate people about the Affordable Care Act. So I can't do anything but other than anchor myself in the mission. So who cares what happens to me? The mission has to go. People got to get coverage. People need to know what's going on. And so I made a decision that when I get on this call, that I'm going to tell them the truth. I said what I said. And if y'all need me to fall on the sword, I'm good with that. The second thing, I decided that my personal values of doing the right thing and serving the American people was more important than me keeping my job. I made that mental decision. And then the final thing is that I let the clarity around my decision-making drive how I evaluated the risk. That I knew I was doing the right thing and I was going to lead with clarity even when the risk felt high. So I got on that call prepared to fall on my sword. And when I got on the call, you know what? They didn't ask me to resign. They didn't ask me to retract my statements or apologize to the news. You know what they really wanted? They just wanted to know exactly what I said, who was in the room, and what details did I give them. Not to change those details, but to confirm that what we were doing was the right thing to do, no matter what. And that I wasn't going to lose my job, and neither was anybody else, because the mission was so clear. We had to do what we can to help people sign up for coverage, educate people about the law, and share with them the people who would benefit from the most from the law. That's what I did that day. And so there were no real consequences. There was nothing that impacted me in a negative way. But sometimes you can let these fear of consequences drive your decisions. You can choose, I need to keep my job over doing the job, the mission. And then you can let this uncertainty run rampant in your life that you decide to play it safe. Well, legendary leaders don't play it safe. They lead with the mission. They anchor themselves in the mission. And they make values-based decisions on what they're going to do long before they even know what the outcome of the consequences might be. Your values should drive your decisions. And the last thing you do, you need to lead with clarity, even when it feels risky. And I was able to do that because of the following reasons. Number one, I had a team who was looking up to me for leadership. They depended on me doing the right thing. And they knew that if I was going to get in trouble for doing the right thing, they surely won't get in trouble for doing the right thing. But none of us were in trouble for doing what the mission required. And as long as you make a decision to stand on the mission, everything else will work itself out. So if you need help with standing on business or standing on the mission or standing on doing the right thing, even when you feel like you might lose your job, I want you to reach out to me. I want you to reach out to me, and I want you to send me a direct message and type the word values, because I want to know what your values are, not your organization values, not your mission statement, your company values, your personal values. Because your personal values should always drive your decisions. It should always drive how you show up, how you lead, and the impact that you choose to have. My name is Anton Gunn. Got a little frog in my throat. I want to thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day.